cannot log into Facebook without being exposed to some form of ideological political discourse these days. This discourse varies in degree of severity, but there are still some very common factors amongst them all. Social media sites such as Facebook are contributing to this partisan division in politics, the likes of which our political system has yet to really see. With over 133 million Facebook users in the US alone, the networking site has become a new battleground for political groups. A Pew Research study has shown that over 30% of all registered voters have used Facebook as a tool to convince others how they should vote during the 2012 presidential election. Barack Obama's Facebook page, his official Facebook page, has 42 million followers alone. 2012 President-elect Mitt Romney has over 11 million followers. The Republican National Committee's official Facebook page has over 1.4 million followers, whereas the DNC has around 1.2 million. Each of these various political Facebook pages disseminates information almost hourly. With that, people who follow these pages share the information they like best to their own Facebook wall, further spreading the message to all of their friends. Soon enough, the spiderweb effect of networking takes effect, and information is distributed at little to no cost, across political boundaries, and usually uncontested. In terms of political discourse, the first is called weak dissonant message. It's negative, but because it's so clearly false, it lacks any real punch. A clear example of this would be a Facebook post stating that President Obama is a radical Muslim who wants to do nothing but destroy this country. The second is a strong dissonant message. It's arguments that contradict your views and are difficult to refute. An example of this would be a conservative who wants to reintroduce prayer into school. But because of secular law, it is hard for them to refute the legality of banning prayer in school. So, if we're given a message that is strong and dissonant, then we completely avoid it. The third type of message is a strong consonant message, which supports our views and is easy to prove. An example of this would be a constitutionalist who states that the First Amendment allows them to say what they want to say. The last kind is called a weak consonant message. Now, these messages jibe with our views, but are factually unsteady. And what is found in social media is that these weak consonant messages that go along with what we believe, but are really hard to prove and are factually unsteady, half-truths and so forth, are what are most commonly distributed. An example of this would be a liberal who argues that complete government control of industry is proven to improve the health of a society's economy. Social media and the oversaturation of information also leads to something known as selective exposure, which essentially states that we select what fits us best in terms of information that we identify with. So rather than through personal relationships, we find our social group nowadays through the selective exposure. And it is in this fact that the world splits apart. It's here that you see why new possibilities to choose what you read, what you watch, and what you listen to can fracture the culture's sense of what's real and what is not real. Selective exposure is not only important because it lets you choose the information that suits you, it's also important because it lets you choose the people who suit you, and it's the people who matter. Political discourse through social media also shows something else called selective perception. Now, selective perception says that even when two people of opposing ideologies overcome their tendency towards selective exposure and choose to watch the same thing, they may still end up being pushed apart from one another. That's because they really won't be experiencing the same thing. Whether it's a football game, a presidential election, or a terrorist attack, each of them will have seen, heard, felt, and understood that thing vastly different from the others who have experienced it as well. So with selective exposure, we tend to seek out information that aligns with our own views. And with selective perception, we interpret the information presented to us in a biased way in order to shift it to align with what we believe. With that said, it should come as no surprise that political strategists are using these behaviors to their advantage.
Half-truths are being propagated through social media under the guise of facts and information. The following examples demonstrate exactly how these half-truths work and how they are spread. In this first example, the post says Obama loves vacations so much he goes on one while our troops bomb ISIS in Iraq. The message that is trying to be conveyed is that our current president is out of touch and could care less with what is going on in the world. The next example is a clip of President Obama giving a speech before he's elected in 2008, in which he states that the president should try to limit the amount of vacation days that he takes in order to do his job effectively. While the Republican side is trying to convey a message saying that President Obama is being hypocritical here because he takes way too many vacation days, this is a half-truth. When the reality is he has taken a quarter of the amount of vacation days that the previous president took. In the next example, we see people burying dead children, with the title of the article saying, "As ISIS terrorists bury women and children alive, Obama lies that ending Iraq war wasn't his idea." While President Obama did run on a campaign of bringing the war in Iraq to an end, in all actuality, this was a predestined thing that was signed into law by the previous administration in 2008, before President Obama was even inaugurated. The next post shows contrasting images of President Obama on the golf course showing leisure activity, while there are men and women being executed by ISIS militants. With the title being "Time for Vacation Must Mean There's a Crisis at Hand," again playing into the idea that President Obama goes on way too many vacations. In an attempt to gain more support from the African American community, the Facebook page Conservative Daily shared an article that essentially said that the Democrats are destroying the black communities. And this person who explains it happens to be an African American male who played in the NFL. Now, this post was shared 11,000 times with 44,000 likes. And it garnered such responses as saying the Democratic Party thrives on keeping African Americans down. Sharpton Jackson will be out of a job if the problems of blacks were solved. The next post states, "The way this welfare queen uses your tax dollars will make your blood boil." Also refers to her as the fat welfare mother proudly feeds her babies only McDonald's. This is supposed to give the reader and viewer a sense of outrage towards welfare recipients. So the question now is, how do we combat this in order to educate ourselves on the truth, as well as become better informed rather than falsely influenced? More specifically, how can we transform our awareness from being automatic attention state, where we are mindlessly shifting through political lies, to the self-reflective state, where we are actively engaged in the information presented, as well as able to analyze it? Meaning, doing the research required in knowing the difference between lies, omissions, half-truths, and full truths. As stated previously, social media sites, chiefly Facebook, have completely changed the way citizens engage in political endeavors and communications. With that, information is being propagated falsely and out of context. This is a very dangerous thing, especially considering how we as people already selectively expose ourselves to information. This leads to completely staunch political lines as well as beliefs constructed around falsehoods. With that, I have a few suggestions. Anytime you are exposed to a political post, a meme, or article on a social media, such as Facebook, take the time to research the issue and the data surrounding it. I don't know how many times I've been exposed to a post originating from a political Facebook page with the comments of, "Wow, this is so true, must share," when the information presented is completely inaccurate, out of context, half true, or just plainly made up. Another one is challenge your own views. We all get caught up in our own individual biases. This is basic human nature. People like to stick to what they can identify with the most. Do not get caught up in this idealism. Challenge your own views. Play devil's advocate to yourself and the information that you think that you know. Gain a new perspective. This will help limit the small niche. As Potter states, the question should not be, how real are media messages? The next step reality organization principle shows us that every media message is a mix of reality and fantasy. Instead, the question should be, which elements in the message reflect reality and which elements are removed from reality in some way.